I have seen a lot of self-professed atheists very strong against Jordan Peterson. And the reasons why, though, are simply incorrect. They don't know the person. So I thought I would make a short video detailing, kind of explaining a little bit more about Jordan stuff, what he thinks about certain things, just to try to clear up this confusion, because I do see a lot of natural allies on this side, especially with the free speech currently under threat right now. And I don't think that we need to have this animosity just because he calls himself a Christian, especially when a lot of the stuff is just factually incorrect. I'm no authority, though, on Mr. Peterson, so let me say that outright. I don't know everything about him. I've never talked to him. So you are getting him filtered through me, which is my understanding of him. So please take that into consideration as well. I'm not putting this forth as an authority on him, just as my understanding of him and trying to clear up a little bit of the just miscommunication, I guess, in a lot of ways that I see. For starters, he doesn't believe that Bibles are holy words. This is a commandment that you must do. It's divine, perfect knowledge right here. This sentence is perfect knowledge and we must all conform to it. He's not like that at all. There's no dogma. The only thing that I've remotely heard him say that he would ever consider as a kind of a commandment is speak your own truth. And that's about it. So he's not laying down anything like that. He's also not saying that he is privy to special knowledge that others are not. Actually, I think he would feel exactly the opposite about it. He uses also other texts and other sources as frequently as he might the Bible. He's done lengthy explanations of the movie Pinocchio from a mythological perspective. Lion King, he talks frequently also about Egyptian myth, Babylonian myth. That's where he gets a lot of the order and chaos from. That's kind of the oldest type stuff that we know about order and chaos that we have some, written record of. So by no means is he exclusively preaching the Bible, so to speak, not even close. So do take that into account, because I do see that quite often references the sky god and how can you obey the Bible, and he doesn't. Not in any sense that you guys have an understanding of that. He's not a Southern Baptist. The second thing I see a lot of is just a story. These are just stories. They're just dumb stories. They're just stories. They don't mean anything. The thing I don't understand about this is a human being cannot function without a narrative. It is impossible. You wake up in the morning and you think about what you're going to do. I'm going to go to work today. You have to create that fiction in your head that you're going to go to work and all the steps that entails. And it is a story and it's fiction. You have to actually live it out. You may not get to work that day. We could all think of 100, 200 things that might come up preventing that. But you move forward with that fictional narrative in your head. Even when you get up and decide what to eat, you're laying in your bed and you're like, do I want coffee? Or do I want eggs and bacon? You have to make a story, a fiction in your head to move forward. And I see of no other way for people to function than using this fiction. And if you have anything to add to that, please let me know. Now, you might be saying, where does science come into this? Well, science is how we describe, how we measure the objective world, as we call it. And that is different, certainly, than the world of values, which is the world of myth, which is kind of story. But no human can function without having a narrative to move forward. If we don't, we're kind of like an animal. When an animal gets hungry, it starts sniffing around for food, right? That's not exactly what humans do. We don't wait for just a urge to hit us to do something. We create something, a fiction in our head, for good or bad. No, that's certainly not by any means. good. People that have social anxiety, for example, they're creating all sorts of fictions about the world outside them. Those are not helpful. So, I mean, if you can't understand that simple step, that humans are humans in a way because of the fictional stories we create that help us move forward, and they are fiction. Even the simplest of stories is a fiction. That's a first step to understanding why stories are important, and later on why myth might be important, or values if you prefer that term. Something else I don't understand either is a lot of people seem to think that morality is a law that everyone must obey. But morality is personal. It is personal to you and your situation. And it has to be interpreted in your life, since it concerns you specifically in a certain time and place in your actions. Certainly there are cycles. Certainly we do see certain repeated patterns of behavior among all human beings throughout history. However, you personally, the onus is on you to determine what your moral decision should be. So I think that's another reason why you don't see a lot of moral laws that Peterson ever professes necessarily. He's just trying to talk about things and give his perspective on things that might be useful to you, because he's thought about these things quite a bit and quite seriously for quite a long time. And that is, your moral must be to the personal, because it concerns you specifically in a certain time and place. You might say, killing is wrong. Okay. Is it wrong if someone's broken into your house and is going to hurt you and your family? You might be, well, maybe not then. Or maybe you still feel it's wrong. Interpreted, specific time or place. Even asking someone the question, if somebody broke into your house, would you kill them? Some people may say yes, some people may say no. But honestly, I don't think anyone really knows until the situation comes up. Time and place, personal to you. That is what morality is. And certainly we can learn from cycles of the past. Certainly we can act with much more power, with scientific knowledge behind us. We certainly can, such as health, public health. Science has gone a great way to determining, the cause of disease. It's much better than the ones we had before that, in knowing what's going on and being effective about it. But certainly health was always important to everyone. It was always highly valued. And that hasn't changed. It was that way for the ancient Greeks, and it's for us today. He also views myth as an evolutionary adaptation for our limited human state. He doesn't view it as a mystical or magical process. It's actually evolved that way. And even structures in our brain have evolved along with myth and narrative. He goes into quite a bit of detail in his book on that if you're interested. Maps of Meaning. A lot of these adaptations were for unseen forces that acted in our lives, such as the weather, certain emotions, anger, fear. You also see these oftentimes also personified in gods. Death, knowing what's beyond death, knowing what to do with life, right? A lot of these things you can't see and touch. Love, the goddess of love. You can't see or touch love. We can't even isolate it as yet in a chemical. Maybe one day we'll be able to. Although I suspect that probably won't be love. It might be, erotic love, perhaps. But he does actually have a biological and evolutionary perspective on myth. And that's one thing I would like to be cleared up, because they seem to think that a lot of people seem to think he's some sort of, like cave hermit that's out casting bones, or something. And that's not what he's about at all. He's a serious scientist, and he's seriously interested in science all the way, not casting bones. the reason I think that he calls himself a Christian is really because he admires Christ and Christ's story, the Gospels, and that would be my guess on that, because he does not hold to any that I've seen other tenets necessarily. And actually, I think a lot of people that call themselves Christians would not appreciate his take on myth and religion. It's actually very revolutionary that he puts it as an evolutionary adaptation, that it's not trying to take the place of science, and that they are actually separate. So the Bible is not a history book, and it's not a science book. I don't think a lot of Christians are going to like that. I happen to live in the South myself. I think a lot of Christians actually probably are fine with that he's kind of put this together because it kind of makes sense of what a lot of us feel but don't know. And it's like, well, it's important to be a good person, right? Shouldn't you be a good person? But if you look at things from a purely scientific perspective, good and evil have no place there. And it's kind of horrific in that sense, because you're not immoral, you're amoral. It doesn't even matter. People are like an ant that you can crush because it's necessary, because it will produce the most good. And I think a lot of people don't feel that way. So that's why I say, in some respects, a lot of the Christians that atheists oppose the most strongly would also oppose Jordan Peterson, to be perfectly honest. I don't think they'd appreciate him at all. And they would fight him actually probably even more than the atheists, since he does call himself a Christian. Another point that I think is also missed in any of our discussions today is that we need to look for where we have allies in certain areas. It's very infrequently will you ever find a person that you're going to agree on, 20 different political or religious points. Maybe just a couple. And where you do have a consensus with someone, you can build on that. And I think a lot of us have seen this in our work environments. You may not choose to hang out with this person after work and build a relationship, but you can get a job done. And in the arena right now for free speech, we do need every single ally if that is important to you. And it doesn't matter what else the person believes. If they will support free speech, they are an ally in this area. You can disagree. You can even talk about the disagreement. I think it's healthy. But we cannot throw out... I don't understand the practicality of, or even the it's almost inhumane to have a purity test to, in quotes, accept someone. What kind of person does that? If you don't agree with on these X points with me, you are less than human. Go away. You're not even human. You're not worthy of my time. You're not worthy of my dignity. What? That is an awful way to treat people. And I do think that is inhumane. Certainly in this modern age of our luxury and our ease of lives that we have, that really would be considered heaven for anyone in most of human history. No. I say no. Let's not have purity tests. Let's talk about things where there's consensus, especially on very important areas like free speech. Free speech, I think, as most people that would probably be interested even remotely in listening to this would know, that is the most important thing. The most important human right, if you want to say it that way. We must have free speech. Do not turn away allies. if they will agree in this area. Take all we can get. Because we will need all we can get, because there are people that do not believe in free speech. I think those people are sensing that they're on the way out, but that even makes them more dangerous because they're trying to get done what they can. And lastly, this is probably Peterson's most contentious point that I've ever heard him say before, is that he hates pizza. Apparently when he was younger, in his younger days, he worked at a pizza joint. And he ate, as he said, his lifetime maximum of pizza. So he hates pizza. Unheard of. If you have any additional questions, please ask in the comments below. And I hope this was helpful in clearing up those steps.